The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
Welcome to today's show. Scott here, filling in for host Mark Reddick for just a little while longer. We've got a good one for you today. In just a bit, we'll sit down with the man confirmed by Guinness World Records as the world's oldest active professional truck driver. His name is Doyle Archer. He's 90 years old, and he stopped by our studios for a nice chat about his decades behind the wheel. As you might imagine, he's got a few stories to tell, and we'll hear them. It's a great conversation, and we hope you'll stick around for that. Then we'll close things out today by visiting with Marty Ellis, the man who drives the spirit of the American trucker. Marty's been making his way throughout the Northeast in recent weeks, and this weekend, he's at a brand new event in New Jersey. He'll tell us about that, along with other thoughts on FMCSA's so-called Green Book, a new trend that involves speeding and social media, and more. So lots of show to come. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. You now have an opportunity to make comments on truck parking. This week, the Federal Highway Administration published a notice of request for information collection in the Federal Register to update its truck parking survey. A variety of stakeholders will be surveyed in order to assess the current state of truck parking. The Federal Highway Administration will be targeting groups that are responsible for providing or overseeing the operation of truck parking facilities. This will include stakeholders that depend on such facilities to safely conduct their business, including state transportation and enforcement officials, port authorities, private sector facility owners, trucking company owners, and truck drivers. In the survey, truck drivers will be asked about the location and frequency of insufficient truck parking and capacity at rest facilities, future parking needs and locations, availability of information on parking capacity, among other things. You can find a link to comment on our website at landline.media. A school crossing guard in San Francisco is voicing concern after she was almost hit by a Waymo driverless vehicle. NBC Bay Area did an investigative piece and spoke to 30 different crossing guards from 20 different schools. They found that 1 in every 4 said they experienced a close call in the crosswalk with autonomous vehicles. In the article, Waymo said in a statement to NBC that it takes public concerns very seriously, and while they are proud of their safety record, they recognize the importance of ensuring that other road users feel confident and comfortable around their technology. California Congressman Kevin Mullins spoke with the news station and said more information is needed moving forward.
The national data that's being captured is really limited.
What's available now isn't really telling the whole story.
That's right. The data is crucial in crafting regulations that compel these companies to focus on these areas of safety concern.
The crossing guard situation was just one of many individuals who have had close calls. NBC Bay Area obtained a database of complaint records that have been submitted to the California Department of Motor Vehicles. They report that last year, the DMV fielded more than 200 complaints, with the majority of them involving Waymo and Cruise. A New Jersey-based trucking company has been ordered to cease operations. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration recently declared One Nor Trucking, Inc. to be an imminent hazard to public safety. The sole driver and president of the company, Gurpreet Singh, was previously served with an imminent hazard out-of-service order on April 19th of this year. That happened after he rear-ended a passenger vehicle while operating a commercial motor vehicle and left the scene of the accident. An inspection of Singh's truck revealed a bottle marked vodka inside the cab. He was placed out of service but blatantly disregarded the out-of-service order and operated his CMV later that day in Oregon. He was later arrested after evading a sheriff's deputy. Following that incident, an FMCSA investigation found One Nor Trucking, Inc. to be non-compliant with multiple federal safety regulations, including controlled substances and alcohol use, and testing commercial driver's license standards, requirements, and penalties, driving of CMVs, and hours of service of drivers. If the company fails to comply with the provisions of the federal imminent hazard out-of-service order, it could result in civil penalties of more than $33,000 for each violation. A truck driver is facing criminal charges after 16 migrants were found inside a refrigerated tractor-trailer this week in Arizona. Tucson sector U.S. Border Patrol agents discovered the individuals after a canine led agents to the trailer at the I-19 immigration checkpoint. The trailer was set to 50 degrees and was locked with no way for the individuals to escape. Research is now underway on the country's bridges to determine the likelihood of another disaster happening like the one in Baltimore. The research group at Johns Hopkins University includes students and faculty members that will assess the country's bridges, particularly the larger ones near major ports of entry. Michael Shields is the team leader and an engineer that specializes in risk assessment. He says the Key Bridge collapse was a wake-up call and that we all need to know now whether there is an outsized risk to bridges across the country so that critical investments can begin immediately if they are needed. The research team has begun its investigation and hopes to share some preliminary results with stakeholders by the end of this summer. They predict the full study will take approximately 1 year to complete. More than 400 pounds of cocaine was discovered recently in a tractor-trailer's fuel tank. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports that officers encountered a 35-year-old man driving a commercial tractor-trailer applying for entry from Mexico at the Otay Mesa commercial facility on May 22nd. The driver was referred for further examination by CBP officers. During that, a canine unit alerted officers to examine the fuel tanks. That's when a total of 160 packages of cocaine were found, weighing 412 pounds. CBP officers seized the narcotics and commercial tractor-trailer, while the driver was turned over to the custody of Homeland Security for further investigation. Paving projects in West Virginia just got a financial boost. A Senate bill was recently signed by Governor Jim Justice that will give $150 million to the West Virginia Division of Highways in supplemental highway funding for paving projects throughout the state. This $150 million is in addition to the $190 million in federal funds. Governor Justice said this extra funding is needed so that highway crews can roll up their sleeves and tackle even more roads. This funding will be used exclusively for paving projects in every district in West Virginia. Improvements to pavement, intersections, and drainage will soon be made in Ohio, thanks to $5 million that was just announced. Recently, Governor Mike DeWine and the Ohio Department of Transportation announced plans for more than a dozen new transportation projects in the state. $4.1 million of the funding will go towards construction projects, and the remaining will be used to obtain right-of-way and for preliminary engineering and design projects. In an effort to alleviate congestion and aid incident management efforts, the Ohio Department of Transportation announced a new smart lane that will be coming to the northeastern part of the Interstate 275 loop next month. According to WLWT5 News, ODOT says the smart lanes will allow an extra lane of travel on upgraded highway shoulders for use during certain times. The additional lane will likely be open during busier times during weekdays at peak rush hour. When the lane is open, the speed limit will be reduced to 55 miles per hour, down from the usual 65 miles per hour. And finally, the Missouri Department of Transportation and law enforcement agencies will be cracking down on littering in the Kansas City area during the month of June. KMBC reports that $13.6 million was allocated in 2023 to clear litter from state highways and roadsides. MoDOT's Chris Redline is the district engineer for Kansas City. He said they believe a significant amount of trash along the highways comes from loaded and unloaded commercial vehicles. During the month of June, Missouri Highway Patrol and other law enforcement agencies will be out on the roads, ensuring that loads are properly secured to ensure residual trash doesn't blow out. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Coming up next, we'll sit down with the world's oldest active professional truck driver, as confirmed by Guinness. Doyle Archer is 90 years old, and we had a great talk full of great stories. That's up next right here on Landline Now, so stick around. We're back right after this.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power and performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. We are joined by a very special guest today, the man recently named by Guinness World Records as the world's oldest active professional truck driver at 90 years old. I've got a feeling Doyle Archer has more than a few stories to tell, and he joins us right now here in Studio A to share a few of them. So, Mr. Archer, congratulations, first of all. The title, right?
Thank you.
World's oldest active professional truck driver. Let me just ask you, how does that feel to have have an award or a world record title attached to your name?
Well, that's an honor, a very big honor. I hadn't expected this when I started out. Had no intention to it. It just circumstances happened to lead that way by staying in it year after year. You know.
Well, you say year after year. It's been a lot of years, right?
Well, yeah, yes.
We were talking earlier, some 60 years, I guess, since you started, right?
Near 60.
Near 60. Tell me a little bit about that, because you started out, I think you said in 1964, in terms of driving, right? But you have been involved in the trucking industry even before that, right?
Well,
You've got a family business.
Name-wise, partnership in the business, but I never had an active part in the trucking. My dad had started this trucking business in 1961, but it was solely his at that time. And I didn't get involved, in driving until 64, 65, I'm not sure where. And then that was just a part-time deal, mainly hauling grain from western Kansas into the Kansas City area or out to Colorado to feedlots like Monfort, or coming to Kansas City to Bartlett Elevator, a few places like that, and then would reload animal feed out of New Trina Mills or Schreiber Mills up St. Joe back out to western Kansas somewhere. That was the heart of the business to begin with.
So you've been working. You've been working for 60 years. That's tough work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't on a full-time basis till about 1970, and then I bought my own truck and got my own operating authority at that time, but still doing the same thing.
Sure. And pretty much the same thing up until today, right?
Well, in some ways, our own business up until about 78 there. And I've had a lot of allergies. I had some very severe asthma attacks from this grain dirt, and it finally got me down. I had to get out of it. Had a little incident that ended up in the hospital out of it. And guess it was a couple times of it, but I decided I had to get out of that grain dirt. So that's when I leased her trucks on to Bringer Company in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
And I was there for 20-some odd years, 22, something like that.
Yeah. It's clearly, you do this for 60 years, and you are 90 years old now,
90,
right?
90.
Yeah. It's clearly something that you love. I would imagine you're not just doing it for
That's true.
for a paycheck, right? This is something that you enjoy doing.
For both the paycheck and the
that does help, doesn't it? Yeah.
Compare it to what I see out here, many people in the industry, wherever they're at, whether they run a machine in a factory or an assembly line or what, that's monotonous day after day. Or working in an office, people got to do that routine. In this, you're all over the country. I've seen all the country over the years, many times crisscrossing north and south from Seattle to Miami or San Diego to Boston. I've run that a number of times, and up into Canada some. No big amount, but I've been in 5 provinces in Canada as a result of it.
Yeah, you learn a lot doing that.
Oh, you
don't
do.
You?
But getting to see things and people is so much better than sitting in a certain environment in a factory or something like that, you know.
That's interesting because I'm thinking about what you said there. I'm thinking about time. I'm thinking about 60 years. And I'm thinking about all the places that you've been and all of the people that you've met over those 6 decades through your trucking career. Have you learned things about people, humans just in general? I think just from being out there and seeing so many people over that many number of years, you know, what have you picked up about people over the years?
That's a very interesting question because I've probably met all kinds of them.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I've met some of the nicest people you'll ever see, and I've met some that's not so nice. Let's say it that way.
They're out there. Yeah.
They're there big time, too.
Yeah. Have things, well, I think I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer it here. Have things changed a lot just in terms of trucking? We don't have to talk about humanity, but in terms of trucking in the past 60 years, I mean, what changes have you seen that have really stood out to you? You know, we talk about good people and not so nice people out there. There have been some probably good changes in trucking, I think, that you would maybe see, and some bad ones as well. What kinds of things have changed over the years?
Well, I think the equipment-wise, the trucks are much better than they was in those old days. I mean, what we run then, what Rick ran in his early days is no air conditioners, underpowered engines, spring ride trucks, old Henderson suspension maybe under them, and you felt all the bumps. You got all the benefits from it. Till today, nice air ride truck, air conditioned, you know, nice cushion seats, all very good. And when you have to live in it like I do, yeah, you need to have something. You're pretty cramped up in there. But to see the negative side of it, it's the element you have to deal with out here that is
elements like regulations things
regulations like and people you deal with and things like that. It's put a kind of a dark side on the trucking industry.
Yeah.
Some of the competition we get is a little bit shady sometimes, you know, out here. So
yeah. I think we all know that for sure. Yeah. But overall, I mean, the good outweighs the bad.
Oh, yes.
On all this, right?
I wouldn't want to do anything else, I don't think.
What exactly, walk me through a typical, I guess, work week for you now at, again, 90 years of age. What are you doing nowadays?
Well, I still run a lot of the long hauls. Yet that's what I like. If I could get a load to Seattle back all the time or somewhere like that, I would run it back to back, except in the bad weather conditions. In the winter, now that gets to be a little difficult there.
Sure.
But I like the long haul because I can get in the truck, I'm with that load for several days, and I can plan my trip out and back pretty much and live with it. And that's kind of why I like to stay with those type of loads. I'm more comfortable on them than a short overnight haul somewhere, you know. Those get to me sometimes. In fact, you're up all day loading or unloading, and then this customer wants his load somewhere the next day. Them situations, they're a little hard on an old man. So I'm not a young buck anymore. So
I was going to
stay away from them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because I mean, this is a tough job for a young person, you know, in their 30s. At 90 years of age, you're dealing with the same sorts of challenges that everybody else out there is. I imagine, you know, it has gotten a little bit more difficult over the years, or is it you just hit that ground running and you're good to go every day?
You hit it running, and you plan your trip out. I know about how many hours I'm going to be, so I know about where I need to stop, and I can plan my stops at where there's a good truck stop or whatever place, and I handle it pretty good in those conditions.
Yeah, I bet. That's great. We're not going to get enough time to get into all of your stories from the past 60 years, but because I know you got more than a few.
I got a whole bunch of them for you.
I bet you do. So I mean, I just wanted to ask you. You know, you've seen a lot. You've met a lot of people. Walk me through kind of maybe a couple of your more momentous stories that you tell people at a truck stop when they ask you about the old times truck and things like that.
Well, I don't know. There's so many like that come up. I don't know which one to pick for you.
You spin the wheel and
spin
just
the wheel
pick
and draw
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been caught in blizzards and held overnight or several days in one. In fact, just this last spring, I got in one up in Nebraska and sat for 4 days up at York, Nebraska, snowed in. So it's still going on just like it was in the old days. But I guess you have to learn to adapt to those situations, And the thing that bothers me worse is the people out here that don't have any clue of what you're dealing with or why they can't figure maybe why you're parked on their parking lot somewhere.
Yeah.
I'd like to have you move. Hey, I can't go anywhere,
That's changed a little bit, hasn't it, over the years?
It has.
I mean, that was always probably there, but it seems like it's more now, right?
True, yeah. There's a lot of people out here that have no concept of what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And they're the majority anymore, too.
Oh, you think so?
A lot of them are, anyway.
Yeah. Well, again, getting back to the nice people and the not so nice people, it feels like maybe the not so nice people are louder, at least.
Well, I'm
these days,
afraid they are louder, and maybe more of them. But I see one thing about them: they usually don't last too long out there.
Yeah,
till they move on to something else.
Yeah.
They can't handle it.
That's true. In terms of, we're talking right now, we're talking blizzards and rude people, but I imagine you got some fun stories too of things that have happened to you over the years. Can you share one of those with us?
Well, I've seen one very good one happen up in Chicago a number of years ago. I was sitting up on Fulton Street in Chicago, which is a very bad part of town, backed into a dock, unloading, and the street's narrow, cars were parallel parked on each side of the street, but I was about through unloading, but a fellow pulled in with a nice, shiny black Peterbilt chrome. I mean, this was show truck. Pulled in out there, and he got out of his truck, didn't roll up the window, didn't lock it, and he walked right by me, and I told him he can buy. I said, if you get anything very valuable in the truck, you better lock it up. He said, oh, there's something in there they don't want, and went on in to check in. Incidentally, this place had an armed guard they kept on duty out there on the dock all the time to keep the bad element off. But this guard took him on inside the office to get him checked in, And simultaneous to this, there were two fellows coming up the street trying every one of those parked cars, see if the doors come open. They got up to this truck. One went down each side. The one on the driver's side I got to see. Well, little did he know what was in that truck. He just got all the door latch come open. He just shinnied right up the side of that truck and run into a Doberman. This guy had two Dobermans in there. One was sitting in each seat, and he run into this dog face to face.
Oh, wow.
This dog went right into his face, just chomp, and really barking. Well, this guy fell off the truck on his back out in the street. It kind of stunned him for a little bit.
I bet it did.
And he got up and run like I've never seen anybody put as much energy as he did getting out of there. It was a sight. He was in a hurry when he left.
I bet he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the owner of the truck after that?
No, never got to visit with him. In the meantime, before he come back out, it was empty. And I had to pull out. I think they were going to put him in the slot I was in, so I never did get to see him to, thank him for the good show I seen.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. Well, he was prepared.
He was prepared. Yeah, he knew what he had.
He knew what was going on.
Yeah.
That's wild. You got one more?
Well, not right now on the top of my mind, anyway.
That's perfectly all right. Hey, I want to bring in. This is your boss. This is your boss over here, right?
Yeah.
Rick Coombs, right?
Yes.
Owner of Coombs
Incorporated out of Phillipsburg, Kansas. Yes.
So, tell me about Mr. Archer here. You've known him for a while, right?
Doyle has worked for me for 20 years. He, like I say, I've known him since I was a teenager. I used to ride around in the truck with my dad in the summers, and we would meet him. Doyle and my dad had started trucking about the same time, about in the early 60s. My dad was driving a little bit off and on in 62 and 3. He actually started his trucking company in 64. And Doyle at that time was working for his father. And like I said, they was hauling grain into Kansas City, bringing anything and everything that they can put in them convertible hoppers, hauling back into western Kansas.
And still going. We've got much more to ask Doyle Archer and his boss, Rick Coombs, about. We'll get to that after the break.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Welcome back. When we left you, we were talking with the world's oldest active professional truck driver, 90-year-old Doyle Archer, and his boss, Rick Coombs. And Rick was just talking about Mr. Archer's work schedule. We'll pick it up there.
Doyle still to this day is asking him earlier about what his normal work week looks like.
Yeah.
We don't cut him any slack. He's one of our drivers in the van division, and he goes out and runs just like the rest of our drivers. He'll outdo a lot of our younger guys. He's a top hand. He's been there for 20 years working for us, and just solidly, in and out every day. You can count on him making his deliveries and doing the job he's supposed to do.
It's interesting you say that, because I imagine there are people out there that see this Guinness World Record and think that maybe he's doing, hauling a load a week or a load every couple weeks or something. Yeah, he's working, but he's not really working. This man is working.
Yeah.
Every day, right? Every week, as he said, doing everything everybody else does.
He's roughly between 95 and 100,000 miles a year. He's out there month in and month out. His favorite run, if he could do it every week, would be going to the Northwest, out there to Portland, Seattle, Washington, and that. We don't send him out there that terribly often because different times of the freight rates, but that usually comes at the worst time in the winter.
Yeah.
Is when we send him out there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Doyle is just like any truck driver in our fleet. He's a full-time driver, and I appreciate him every day.
I'm curious, I don't even know if you know the answer to this question, Mr. Archer, but do you know how many millions of miles you've run over the course of 60 years?
Well, I don't have an exact figure on it, but it's somewhere over 5 million. And there's, we can kind of add up to 5.5 million, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, which is impressive.
Now, Rick has some very good figures on it there. He's kept up, but some of these older companies that I've been to, and those figures are gone, so I just estimate it by
that makes sense.
What I done.
Let me ask you, too, I know your wife, Lois, I believe, is with you, right, visiting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is she ready for you to retire, or does she like maybe having you out of the house still a little bit?
No, I think she'd like to have me retire. She's indicated that in several times. Why don't we sell the truck and get out of it and go live out in her motorhome or whatever?
Sure.
I've got a hobby. I like to play with old cars.
Nice.
Got some old Model Ts, and I got an old 42 Jeep and a few things around there that kind of pieces of history,
But no plans to retire?
No plans yet.
No plans yet. I wanted to ask the both of you, because obviously we're here at OOIDA headquarters. You, Mr. Archer, I believe, are a life member, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And you, Rick, are a senior member, right, I believe?
I don't know what type of member I got, but
you've been a member for a while.
Yeah, since 1984, I guess.
1984, and that's what I was going to ask you, because your connection to OOIDA, both of you, dates back quite a ways, right?
Quite a ways.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Can't give you the exact date on it, but
early days, right?
Yes.
We're talking like 70s, I think.
Yes,
right?
I had a annual membership. At different times along, I'd have it a year or two, and then I'd let it lapse, and come back and get another one or two, and then later my wife fixed me up with a lifetime membership in it, so that's where I've been ever since. So
yeah, and I know somebody told me earlier about a visit, and I'm not sure which of you it was, and it may have been your father, Rick.
Right.
An early visit to OOIDA when it was literally tied to a a lamppost in a parking lot, right?
Well, it wasn't that trailer that they was talking about. They was talking about the different locations. I can remember stopping in here a couple times with my dad in the late 70s. Like I say, I used to ride in the truck with him most time during the summer, and he'd stopped in a couple different times to talk to that Jim Johnson. And that was in the late 70s, and it was in an office building, which the guys downstairs seemed to think it might have been in an old dental office that they had bought over in Oak Grove that they operated out of for a while.
Sure.
We never did stop in this building that we're in out here right now.
Until now.
Till
Here you are.
Yeah. Me and Doyle come down.
And you got a hero's welcome.
Yes, sure.
I don't think they rolled out the red carpet necessarily for
they
you.
might have. It's just as good. I mean, very good.
And you still got more to come here after
Yeah.
this as well, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the Guinness World Record because I know the process of that is a process, right? It takes some time and there's phone calls, and I'm not even sure what all's involved there. But getting back to this, I guess the beginning of it, I imagine it wasn't you that reached out to Guinness. I think it was
Correct.
somebody who knows you and loves you and all of that, right? Can you tell me kind of how that all got started?
Well, I had thought once or twice a number of years ago about trying for it. I just kind of gave up and let it slide, and I didn't realize it was coming on that fast. But Rick and one of the ladies in his office, maybe more, but one of the girls in the office, they got behind that, the two of them, and filled out all the paperwork and got it going there, and that's how it happened. If it wouldn't have been for Rick, I would never have been there. I mean, say it that way.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to tell you that it wasn't me. I went to
You're gonna plead
Doyle's.
the fifth here?
Yeah, I went to Doyle's 90th birthday party. We had talked about it a little bit. Doyle said something about that. Well, several people there was asking, well, why are you still driving a truck? What's going on? Why are you still doing that, you know? And we'd met one of our old bankers that had retired that was asking him that. When I got back, we was talking about, Doyle said something about, well, he's thinking he's getting to be close to being the oldest truck driver around. So I have a dispatcher that's been with me for about 4 or 5 years, Carly Wolliver, that basically took the initiative on that, checked into it, found out that the last driver was like 88 years old. And so she did most of the paperwork to get that lined up. And so I got to give the credit to her. She should have been down here on this trip today.
Next
instead
time.
of me, yeah.
Next time.
Yeah, she done a lot of work to get that put together. Yes.
Yeah, I bet. That's what I was saying. I mean, I know you got to fill out forms and there's phone calls and there's a verification process and all of that, right? And I know you've got the certificate, I think, right? Is there some sort of ceremony or something that you get to go to, or do they just give you a pat on the back and say, good job, you get to be in the book?
Had sent that certificate out. Now, I don't know of anything beyond that. Maybe Rick knows what's coming there. But.
We got the certificate the day we left to come down here. And I do happen to have one of them. I left it in the back seat of my pickup. I forgot to grab it to come in. It's out in the parking lot.
We believe you. It's okay.
We got the certificate then. I do not believe that there's going to be anything more with that other than he's got the certificate, and obviously they're going to put him in the record book.
Yeah.
And they have locations around the country that will also be listing him. And as currently, Doyle is still driving. His 90th birthday was in December, and so we're 5 months past that already.
Yeah.
So he's probably soon going to be 91 driving.
Yeah. I guess you'd have to go through the process again next year. Is that how that would work?
I don't know. But
I don't know either,
he's still currently driving, and everything's fine. He got him a 2-year physical, which is something I struggled to do with anymore last year.
Yep.
So he's good for another year anyway. A lot of my drivers, my elderly drivers, struggle to get a 1-year physical right now. So Doyle is in great shape and still going and
going strong.
Yep. And back to that question you was asking about Lois earlier, she brings the cinnamon rolls. I thought that was to keep him on the road and going. But now maybe there's two different stories.
Where are the cinnamon rolls now? I don't see any in front of us.
She brings them over periodically to our office.
Ah, there you go.
And I kind of always thought that was a gift just to keep Doyle on the road.
Keep me out of her hair at home.
Something like that. That's what I kind of always took it as.
We'll have to consult with her later to see what her motives are there.
Yeah.
Is there, just real quick, is there anybody nipping at your heels there in terms of world oldest trucker? Do we know? Is there any arch nemesis or opponent out there that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, I've seen one. I had looked at this, went online to see if there, in the beginning of this, if there was anybody else out there. And I seen one. Then at that time, Rick mentions the person that's 88. Mm-hmm. Well, then I found one that said he was a 90 was on there, but he was only driving a very short run once every week, like 50 mile out and 50 back, and that was it, just a short.
Yeah.
So that was probably how I edged him out for the title on it, I guess. But,
like a heavyweight bout or something, right?
Well,
yeah, your arch nemesis is out there.
Well, I don't dare stop now or he will overtake me. So,
very good, very true. I wanted to get back because, again, we could talk to you all day, about
many things we could visit on.
About many
things. A lot of history here.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, too, you talked about, younger truck drivers out there. There's a lot of people who are entering the industry now. Many of them view it as a career. They take it seriously. They want to do right by their profession, by the industry, by their colleagues, their fellow truck drivers. What advice do you have? I'm sure you've got a lot of advice because you've seen a lot of things and you've got a lot of wisdom, clearly. What kind of advice do you give younger drivers out there when they ask you, hey, what can you tell me?
Well, I think they maybe need to be more dedicated. They're in it just because that's a job offered to them today. And many of these big companies are setting them up with a truck, no payment, no down payment, nothing, putting them in it. They're just shortly out of driving school or something. They don't have the knowledge they need going into this. And you need a lot of background knowledge to exist out there. There is so many sand traps, so to speak, you're going to get into that it's going to eat them up in a little while. That would be my sentiments. They need to be more dedicated and not just dedicated for the paycheck because they're probably going to get a pretty small one out of all this.
Especially when they start out.
Yeah, when they start out. And I've read some articles that some of them are not getting hardly anything when it all nets out. The bills are all paid and everything, why they don't. But in so doing, this truck that somebody's selling them, this company has them driving for them. Well, they're getting cheap freight haul there. The companies benefit from them, and these people don't understand this, so they need to be a little more experienced with it and knowledgeable as to what's coming on down the road, because there's many sand traps for them to get into out there.
Well, there's so many sand traps, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's frustrating, I think, for so many people out there, including us in this building, right, is that it is so difficult. And, back when you started, I imagine things were a little bit simpler, right? There's so many moving parts now.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to get
the trucks were much more simpler.
Yeah.
They wasn't comfortable, but they were simple.
Well, and just the industry too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many more challenges out there. It feels like now. But yeah, that's strong advice. Yeah, dedicate yourself to it and learn everything you can.
They need more knowledge going into it, need to be more dedicated and understanding of the problem, what they're getting into, because they're stepping into a bad one when they do that. And very few of them are going to survive over a very long period of time. The turnover is going to be tremendous among that element.
Yeah,
the people out there.
Well, we'll have you back next year when you make the Guinness World Record book again at 91 years old.
91. Right?
Well, there you go. Absolutely.
But what I need to do is stop by and see you a time or two instead of just going by on the interstate and wave and go on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you're welcome anytime, obviously, and you're welcome to visit with us anytime as well. Congratulations on the honor.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's appreciated.
Our thanks once again to Doyle Archer for his time. We'll take a break now, but Landline Now returns in just a moment. Stick around.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibrotech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibrotech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Every week, we check in with Marty Ellis, the man who drives OOIDA's tour truck, the Spirit of the American Trucker. Marty's been making various stops throughout the Northeast in recent days and recent weeks, and this weekend, he's in New Jersey at a brand new event that sounds like a lot of fun. He'll run us through what he's been up to, along with other thoughts from FMCSA's so-called Green Book, to a troubling new trend that involves speeding and social media, and much, much more.
Carolina west to Denver, up to Bangor, west to Austin, coast to coast, sea to sea, sail on, sail on.
Hey Marty, how's it going?
I am lovely, Scott, and you?
We are doing just fine over here. I know you've been traveling along the Northeast of late. I know you just spent some time at the TA in Maybrook, New York. I wanted to ask you how that was, and then where are you settling in now for the weekend?
Yeah, over here, over at TA there in Maybrook, everybody was really kind to us, very welcoming, so it's always nice to go to a location where everybody wants to see you when you come. And now we are at the Hot Rig Truck National. It's the first year show here in Augusta, New Jersey, at the Sussex County Fairgrounds. And that address is 37 Plains Road if anybody wants some directions in. And all the proceeds to this show go to the Kaleidoscope of Hope Ovarian Cancer Foundation. So should be a good time. And of course, if you're anywhere in the area, stop in, say hello, and check out this show.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'll look forward to hearing more about that next week after you wrap things up there. But yeah, especially with it being the first year they're doing that, I'm sure that's a bunch of excitement around that event, and we'll look forward to hearing about it. I wanted to pick your brain, like we always do, about a few issues that I know have caught your eye. First of all, death, taxes, and then updates to the FMCSA regulations every few months, 3 things we can always count on. I imagine that is something that you and most of your listeners, or our listeners rather, are keeping an eye out for. What's on your mind there with the Green Book?
Yeah, well, most of the stuff we talk about gets brought up here in the trailer when we're out on the road. And one of them was a gentleman came in, one of our members, and he was asking about the Green Book. Everybody that got into trucking would receive one right away, and then it seemed like once a year they would give you out a new one, even though it's updated quarterly. And I don't know if they're putting out more regulations quarterly. I can't imagine the government ever taking away that many regulations to have it updated. So yeah, it's, but it's good to at least once a year get a new book, see what's been updated in it. And one of the things that's been helpful is they are putting some interpretations in through the pages. I like to get the big one. The ones with the spirals are great because then you can lay it open flat and really kind of get into reading some of the regulations and some of the interpretations straight from the FMCSA. The problem with those interpretations, some of the time they're as confusing as the regulations themselves. So there's still times, I got to call into the office myself and say, am I reading this right? In this first paragraph, it said this, and the next paragraph, it almost says just the opposite of what the first paragraph said. So I need some help. So I always encourage people, it's a great thing to be able to have OOIDA as basically their reference people, to where if you're confused about a regulation or you got pulled over and you're wondering if the officer's correct, because not all the officers interpret things the same way as the next one. So it's a challenge for guys out here. And the best thing to do is, number one, have a green book, which, it's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulation Handbook, but most of us know it as the Green Book. And then get familiar with it, because there's so many regulations in there that pertain to just the average driver out here. It's almost ridiculous how many regulations we have. Well, it is ridiculous, but
yeah.
We as drivers need to, be familiar with that. And because you never know, some of the time you might need to bring that up to an officer and say, hey, this is what I'm reading in here. Why don't you tell me what you understand this to be?
Yeah, and that's a frustrating thing you point out there, because interpretations are interpretations, right? And we hear about that all the time, where a roadside inspector or a officer may have a different interpretation of what they're seeing. In a perfect world, these things would be black and white, and you would know what you can and what you can't do. But your advice there as well, to call OOIDA if you have any questions or concerns, is a great one, because I guarantee someone in this building will be able to answer that and guide you in the right direction, 100 times out of 100. So
Absolutely.
Great advice there for sure. And yeah, it's super frustrating when you have to deal with all that, especially on a daily basis. Speaking about frustrating, I know we talked a lot about speeding during the pandemic and how bad it got, and it seems like it's continued to get bad in the years that have passed since. Most of the time when we're talking about speeding, it feels like we're talking about passenger vehicles, but I know you caught wind and you've kind of noticed a disturbing trend online of semi-speeding. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I've noticed some of the guys that put the videos on YouTube especially. Some of those are using their dash cams, which also show their speed. And it is a little bit worrisome that they were going to put these videos out that actually show them speeding while they're doing it. And the same thing with not the videoing itself, but some of the time you can tell when the person picked up the camera, whatever they're using, whether it's their phone or a separate camera, and to go to the side and show something that might be of interest to their viewers. But I just want to caution guys that are doing these videos, you might want to be a little more careful on what you're putting out there in video form, because you never know who else is watching it, and could it turn around and kind of bite you in the butt, if you're putting something out there that maybe you are doing maybe a little improper. And I understand the speeding, we're all chasing that clock. Every second is being recorded now, but also people are watching, and of course we're being recorded everywhere we go. So it's just good to kind of just keep that in mind when you're putting out those videos, just to be a little cautious of what you're doing.
It never ceases to amaze me the number of people who decide to post videos online or pictures online of them doing, how should I put it, questionable things for the world to see. And this is certainly one of those that leaves me kind of scratching my head about why you would want to do that in the first place. But hey, I guess more power to you. But again, sound advice as well there from you. Be careful what you post, because everybody can see it out there, and there are repercussions for some of these things. So got to be careful there. Marty, we've got about 30 seconds here. Wanted to ask you where you're headed next after the Sussex County Fairgrounds in Augusta, New Jersey. Where are you headed next? And some final words for us.
Yeah, we're going to head up to the Petro in Bordentown, New Jersey. That's I-295, exit 57, and the New Jersey Turnpike, exit number 7. They have an Iron Skillet, an Arby's, 490 parking spots, and 20 showers. Now, we'll only be there on the 3rd of June, and then after that, we go to the American Truck Historical Society Truck Show and Convention. And I just want to remind everybody, as I try to every week, just be kind to one another and give that guy next to you a break.
Brothers of the highway, children of the wind.
Once again, that was Marty Ellis, who drives OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker. You can find Marty's next stop on our show and every day on our website, landlinenow.com. They've also got a full rundown that looks weeks ahead over on OOIDA.com. That's our show for today. From all of us here at Landline Media, we thank you for listening. Wherever you are this weekend, whatever you're doing, make it a good one. And thanks for keeping America moving.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.